to our school district.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Hi, people online. And so we'll be sure to do that. Before we do get to Lisa, who just logged in, I do want to invite up our good friend Dave Karush. As I'm sure all of you know by this time, our wonderful city commissioner, Pat Karush, passed away. And we wanted to spend a little bit of time. There was the formal memorial this week, but she's been an important part of our club. I know personally for me, she was the very first elected official that I met in Royal Oak. And over the years of now knowing her better and knowing how she interacts with our city, I can't imagine a better person to have been the representative of what we believe in and what our values are here and what our city believes about public service. And definitely, I feel inspired as now an elected official to, you know, carry on that legacy. And so it's important to me. If you feel so inclined, I want to invite some people up to share a thought or share a story about Pat if you would like to. If you're not feeling ready to be on the spot, we also understand about that. But I do want to invite Dave up to say hello. He just wanted to be here with us this morning because this club is important to Pat. And I have a little gift for him as well. So this is something that came to me from our state rep, Haley Stevens. It was unfortunately not here in time. It was not in Michigan in time, but we have a flag for you that was flown over the Capitol on Pat's behalf from Representative Stevens. And so she wanted to make sure that you and your family had that. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you all for honoring Pat. I had her as a spouse for 51 years. We were together for 55. So there's a hole in my heart and will be for a long time. She cared about this organization. She cared about the city. As those of you who were able to come to the memorial a couple of days ago, you know that public service was important to her. Issues were important to her. Progressive values were important to her. That's why she enjoyed coming to these meetings, to be refreshed and energized by the thoughts and enthusiasm of the members of this group. So I wanted to thank those of you who were able to come to this service, those of you who thought about it, were not able to, but thought about it, and those who will carry Pat in their memory. Thank you so much.
Would anybody like to say a few words, come up and say hello, share a story about Pat? I know it's an uncomfortable thing to do or a tough thing to do on a Saturday morning, but we wanted to make sure that we as a club we're dedicating some time. And we know that there has been a lot of thoughts, energies, prayers, and love towards Pat and her family, and Dave for you over the last couple of weeks. And so we hope that you feel that support and love. No? Paul, would you like to? Hold on.
Well, I just wanted to share that a week ago or so, you know, we've been dealing with the no rezoning issue and, you know, what it means in terms of our master, is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
In terms of our master plan. And, you know, just the thought went through my head, boy, if Pat was able, she would be out in front of this. So anyway, that was, you know, a thought where, you know, I certainly missed her in that instance. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share. So.
Yeah, she would have made sure everyone had the correct information regarding this issue. Yeah, would you like to join us?
I didn't know her well personally, but one of those campaigns that was either 4 years ago or 6 years ago, and all the signs were out, and this, you know, the other folks had all this slander going out. whether it was against Fournier and the whole development, and who's on the take. And John and I are going door to door, and this one couple wanted to talk, and they're talking about all this crap. And they're making reference to all these allegations. And later, you know, I looked at the Royal Oak Review, and it was a paid ad. And they were taking it as a newspaper expose. But anyways, in all the talking, we were saying, no, that's not true, and no, this is not right, and blah, blah, blah. And the guy says, I'm gonna ask Pat Bruce, she'll tell us what's right.
I like that. We need that on t-shirts. Any other thoughts or reflections? Monica?
So when I came aboard on the commission, I was first appointed. Pat was the very first person to call me. I put my application in. Of course, many of the commissioners called to kind of do a phone interview, and Pat was the very first person to call me. And during our conversation, I was really nervous about, you know, was this a good decision to put in my application? And during our conversation, I knew if I was going to be working with someone like Pat, I would be in good hands. And she was a mentor. She, you know, walked me through issues. She talked to me about many of the things that were coming up, giving me the background of why there would be so many people screaming during my first meeting, which was about the Veterans Memorial. And she just was that. She was a mentor. She was a friend. She was someone that I looked up to. I continue to look up to. I hold every single thing that she ever told me in my heart, and I carry it with me forever. One thing I truly remember about Pat, I really remember, is during the whole issue, we had a commission meeting that was stacked with people screaming about the disrespect we had for them. And as she was speaking, she stopped and said, you know, for a bunch of people who talk about respecting people, you're very disrespectful to children right now. And it was the most amazing silence I heard in that room. But Pat had a way of putting people in place. And she'll be missed.
Yeah, Rachel.
Last year, when Lisa Mason, Lynn Moose, and I became the rabble rousers trying to get the Human Rights Commission set up, the first person we talked to was Pat, and she gave us information we did not want to hear. She had a path of how she thought it had to happen, and we're like, no. But we knew, because we've been watching Pat, I've been watching Pat for years, that if you had information behind you, you were going to win. Right? So we went into research mode, and we made our point to her, and I appreciated so much that she heard our point and changed her mind, because we had the information behind us, but we only had that information behind us because she had been modeling that throughout her career and to us when she was talking to us about this. I strongly believe, I said this like 3 times this week, we wouldn't have a Human Rights Commission right now without Pat, and she made you want to be a better person.
Anybody else like to speak?
Yeah, most of you know me, at least some of you do, Dave Richards. And I met Pat and her husband Dave for over 40 years. And I know a number of people have already spoken and told you very nice things about her. But from my perspective, first time I had contact with her, I had applied for appointment to city board or commission of some type. And she called me and said, well, we can't do that one, but how about this other one? And that was about 1981. Following that, I ended up going on the city commission and spent 8 years fighting the battles with her. I can tell you that all the compliments that you've heard are absolutely true.
Anything else? we, encourage everybody to, right, walk the walk, that was set out in front of us, and, we'll continue to do good work, right, on behalf of Pat for our city. So thanks for that time, and Dave, thank you for joining us. You're welcome to stay as long as as long as you want. He's also going to a DAR presentation, right, Daughters of the American Revolution, later today too. So he's making the Royal Oak circuit. But we're really, really glad to have you, and thanks for spending some time with us. Okay, we love that.
Thank you all.
Yeah, absolutely. So, moving on with, our, regular meeting, we do want to make sure that we jam pack as much information as we can, right, as we've just been able to start our meeting, right, talking about the search for facts and the search for goodness and good policy. And I think Lisa Winters is a great example of somebody trying to serve our city in better ways, in different ways. Lisa Winters is the founder, would that be? Co-organizer, okay, thanks. Co-organizer of an organization in Royal Oak called the Royal Oak Multicultural Parent Association. And she had spoken to us a couple years ago, kind of like right when the organization was getting off the ground. And so we wanted an update about the work that they've been doing, and some of their goals for the upcoming school years. So I would love to bring up Lisa Winters to speak with us. And as always, she'll give us some information. We'll take some questions from the audience. And yeah, I'm thrilled to have you. Thanks, Lisa, come on up.
So I have more handouts, and I printed out 20, so if you know the board knows our students, just kind of like a timeline of Royal Oak Multicultural Parents Association, kind of work since our founding. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'm generally good at projections, so then I worry that I'm too loud when I have a mic in my hand, so. Okay, so thank you all for the invitation. I did print out my remarks so I don't go on a tangent. I'm good for those too. And I do want to try and keep as much time for just conversation. So these will be, I'm going to skip reading through the timeline for you. We know, ROMPA, we know many of you have been active and vocal supporters of our work, and we sincerely appreciate your voice and actions in supporting our work. Since many of you are familiar with it, I'll say most of the time for questions and answers, but to give us a common point of departure, I do think it's helpful to give a brief overview of where we started, what we've accomplished, and where things stand now. So yes, my name is Lisa Winters. I'm one of the founding parents and a co-organizer of ROMPA. I'm the parent of a 7th grader at ROMS, and we're schools of choice families living in Oak Park. I'm also an associate professor of English and African American Studies at Wayne State and the associate chair and director of undergraduate studies for English. Nothing I say here reflects Wayne State, but I say that for a couple of reasons. One, our parent group is like full of experts like related to our work, and so we come from like a really informed position, but we also really strongly believe that the most important expertise we have is that of as parents of students of color in one of those schools. I also bring in my administrative work because that's new to me at Wayne State. I just started last year as an administrator, and so I learned a lot about how hard it is to change from the inside. The system, the institution is just this behemoth that just wants to just stay in place. And it's really easy, I think, sometimes to just be like, well, we can't do things, or this is the way things are done, because it's just so hard. So I do have an appreciation for that as well. So the handouts you have include a summary and more detailed timeline of our activities since our founding in 2017 through 2022. Again, I think what's important to note is that we are a parent-led group that centers the needs of children of color in Royal Oak schools. One of our organizing principles is that if you attend to the needs of the most marginalized and underserved groups, everyone benefits. So the shorthanded example, I think that we've all learned during the pandemic and Zoom and just being at home is that closed captioning was a technology developed for to make video accessible to the deaf community, but now benefits all of us and is available to anybody needing or wanting closed captioning at just about any time. So that's just an example. If you attend the needs of a small group, if that group is the underserved group, everyone will benefit to that. Students of color are not a monolith, so that any other marginalized group and community that you can think of in Royal Oak schools that is underrepresented is represented within the student of color community. Since its founding, ROMPA has had 3 demands. 1, develop culturally diverse, relevant, and an accurate curriculum across all subject areas. 2, recognize the links between and eliminate racial disparities in academic achievement and student discipline. And 3, increase diversity in Royal Oak Schools staff. Of the 3, Royal Oak Schools has made strides in number 3, increasing diversity in Royal Oak Schools staff. This has been wonderful to see, but it is also perhaps the easiest lift, and without deep attention to the other 2 demands, which focus on policy, diversifying staff in of itself cannot affect real change. As many of you know, ROMPA has persistently asked for discipline data, and the district has consistently failed to provide it, and more importantly, to offer a comprehensive plan to address racial disparities in discipline. But I think even more frustrating for ROMPA parents right now, especially in this current political climate, is that so little has changed in terms of making sure schools have culturally competent curriculum across all subject areas. We're in a political moment where school districts need to be deliberately and emphatically proactive in addressing curriculum. School boards and curriculum have always been the front lines, right? Brown versus Ford have always been the front lines for this work. And now more than ever, it's essential that we think strategically and effectively about how to ensure our students are exposed to a robust, culturally competent, accurate, anti-racist curriculum across all subject areas. ROMPA parents have provided ample examples of the harm inflicted by the lack of a robust attention to this matter. And before I kind of list the examples, I want to say 2 things. Like, 1, I come from a family of educators. In a previous life, I was a 3rd grade teacher. K through the PhD, all public schools. My mother is an educator. My cousin is a public school teacher. My uncle and I served on the LA board of the school board. This is not about individual teachers. This is about the support that they need. And 2, I want to say, and I know that we have I think we have the best configuration of a school board that we have had in a long time, and we need to support the school board also, especially looking towards next year, because the right is extremely well organized. And again, these attacks on education, especially on history education from the right, may not be showing up in a robust way in Royal Oak, but I guarantee you that they are happening and organizing. Okay, let me find, this is why I have to write things out. Okay, so here are the examples, so for example, in a French class at the high school, students watch a video of worms singing in French. That's cute, that's fine. The problem is that the worms are coded as Jamaican, as they wear dreadlocks and Rastafarian hats. So as the kids would say, as my child would say, it's low-key, but not really low-key racist, as it diminishes and dehumanizes both national and religious cultures of a minoritized racial group, all for the goal of supposedly light-hearted humor. Motown music and history are apparently absent from the school curriculum. Again, some music teachers squeeze it in, but it's not part of the curriculum. A 7th grade handout on primary versus secondary sources included references to, quote, Indians as opposed to Native or Indigenous Americans. And the way that this is just like a handout on like, this is a primary source or a secondary source, but the way that it characterized the indigenous groups, it characterized them as only having lived in the past, right? When we have students in our community who are part of Native American or indigenous ethnic groups. And so for them to kind of see that they are only represented as being ancient history is problematic. So these are just a few examples. And again, I want to be super clear here. This is not about the individual teachers. We know anecdotally, the majority of teachers that we speak to in Royal Oak schools want to provide a culturally competent curriculum. At ROM's curricular night, most of the classrooms I went into prominently displayed pride flags and Black Lives Matter flags, and clearly were intentional in providing a welcoming and inclusive environment. But without a robust, culturally competent curriculum handed to our teachers, they are left to scramble on their own, grasping for materials without having the time or resources to fully vet them. And it's not their job of the individual teacher to individually vet everything they use in the classroom. So for example, for the worksheet that listed Indians, like the teacher caught the Indians reference, but she didn't kind of catch the larger implications. But I don't blame the teacher. I blame the fact that this is what she kind of like had access to and grabbed and needed to teach her students about primary, secondary sources. And as a college instructor, I'm so happy that she was doing that. So they should not have to find things on their own. And on the flip side, right, teachers have a right to their political perspective. And this is not about the individual teacher, and this is not about policing the political perspectives of teachers in the classroom. But I know of a US history teacher in the district who displays the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, right? The same one flown at the January 6th insurrection, the one that has been co-opted by the right as a dog whistle. He displays that in his classroom. And he also kind of talks about how history isn't just a bunch of facts, and he teaches students critical thinking. And within this larger context of the right's attack on US history, on teaching about slavery, for example, I shudder to imagine what this teacher might be finding on his own in the absence of a full curriculum handed to him by the district. So this curriculum needs to matriculate with our students across grade levels. Students are learning only about a handful of great figures from marginalized groups over and over from kindergarten through 12th grade. As ROMPA parents, we know school districts are under fire, and we are terrified for our children's future as we look to see the attacks on, right now, on Black history across the nation, attacks on education that affirms and is inclusive of LGBTQ rights, and attacks on public education itself. So we know it's not going to stay just with Black history and LGBTQ rights, right? It's going to just keep getting broader and broader unless it's kind of stopped and it's trapped. As we look toward a federal election next year, it's so important to remember that school boards matter, and not just local school boards, but also the state school board and the legislators that impact state educational policy. So while the discipline disparities are high on our mind, it's the curriculum that seems most urgent now. And so here's what we would love for folks to do, depending on your capacity. Is one, call or email the superintendent and demand that she provides all of our teachers a comprehensive, culturally competent curriculum, from everything from one-off worksheets through textbooks and supplemental materials. Attend a school board meeting and speak in support of a culturally competent curriculum that is robust, comprehensive, inclusive, and thus accurate, and state you want the superintendent and school district to hand a full curriculum to educators and require them to teach it. Attending the school board meetings is really important, and I say this not having attended a few, but I know like there is a persistent comment at the school board meetings complaining about trans-inclusive language in the school district. So those of us that are on the right side of things, on the left, right, need to show up and be vocal in our support of what the district is already doing, and then push them to do more. We also are asking folks to pay attention to the state school board and state legislature races. Write to your state legislator and to the school board demanding they proactively implement standards and curricular resources that gird against the right-wing attacks on teaching accurate and inclusive histories. And so finally, later this year, ROMPA will be hosting a panel with members of the state school board and the state branch of the AFT, the Association of Federated Teachers. It's a teachers union. I'm looking at Michelle. American Federation. Thank you. American Federation of Teachers. And so the handout I gave you The QR code on the larger sheet, on the 9x12 sheet, that, if you click that code, it will take you to a PDF accessible timeline where you can click on the links that are on the page there. And that's what I have for you in terms of kind of our updates and where we are. And I'm really happy to see Marty here. She's one of our ROMPA parents, and like I said, you know, I really appreciate the school board's support. The school board's support of our work, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments. Yes.
I know you're talking about inserting things, but what limits do you have as far as jam-packed with the state curriculum that comes down? Because so much is already thrown with testing and this. I'm a retired math teacher from Detroit, so.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's really important to contact your state, because the state sets the core standards and the curriculum, right? It's set at the state level. What I like to say is like, that's the minimum, and it doesn't keep teachers from doing more. And like what, you know, like I said, we have, you know, even things like worksheets, right? That teachers will use for a quick activity or for substitute materials. Those are places where you can do better than what we're doing. And so the two-part answer to your question is when, yes, absolutely. That's why pay attention to the state school board races and contact your state representatives and state school board members and say, we want you to put policies in place and draft legislation so that what's happening in Florida or what's happening in Texas can't happen here, right? We need to gird against that. And then to the local school district, to the superintendent, we want you to do everything possible to provide curricular materials in a curriculum that, yes, is in alignment with state standards. But if you look at the state standards, a culturally competent curriculum is in alignment with state standards. So that would be, does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Somewhat, well, tell me more.
No, I just don't know how jammed people are as far as this is what we have to get in the curriculum and, you know, as far as, I know there's pressure on teachers.
So much pressure on teachers, and you know, and I think that there's so many factors, and there are also various organizations. So there's, you know, Maya Justice is a statewide organization that is working on school board membership and like also pressing for more equitable policies at the state level. There's also another organization that is pushing back against standardized testing, because that takes up so much time and does not benefit our students at all. Like, it's standardized testing does not. And so part of the work is pushing against and empowering, you know, I don't want to go too far off track into standardized testing, but one of the things is that if wealthier public school districts refuse standardized testing, then it makes it easier for underserved school districts to refuse standardized testing, because funding is predicated on standardized testing in part because school boards kind of concede to that, right? And school districts concede to that. So this is, again, not about what individual teachers need to do. It is about, from ROMPA's perspective, it's about like policy and pushing for policy that supports teachers to do more of the good things that would be up for our students and have to do less of, again, you know, standardized, the amount of time spent on standardized testing boggles the mind. So yes.
Yeah, how, or what issues do you see in the next year that, politically could affect, not only this area, but, you know, the state of Michigan in regards to students?
Yeah, so I don't know how many of you are following what's happening in Florida. There's attacks on, so DeSantis is attacking, not just K-12 education, but higher education, through attacks, primarily right now, through attacks on African-Americans. And it's not just Florida. Florida is like the first state, but there's several states that this is happening, right? So for example, the College Board just approved last year an AP African-American Studies curriculum. And there have already been a couple of states who have like refused and said teachers cannot teach this curriculum. Right, so that's what I see as the issue, is that these, and then, you know, hand in hand with that are the attacks on, inclusive language and practices, for, students and families in the LGBTQ plus community, right? And so, that's what I see as like the most urgent matters right now. And again, the school districts and school boards have always been the front line for civil rights. And I think that what I always tell people, I'm like, if they're coming for this group, they're coming for all of us, right? And if it's happening in these states, it can happen in every state. This is how affirmative action got dismantled, right? It started in a couple states, and then next thing you know, it's like against, you know, federal law, right? Affirmative action in college admissions. So that's what I see in terms of like this year, and thinking really proactively about the election next year. So for example, for our school board, I think 4 of the seats are up for renewal, re-election. That means that there are 4 spots that people can run for school board. And so I would say, do not be surprised when out of the blue, there are 4 candidates who are anti-LGBTQ inclusion, want to, you know, argue, you know, want everybody to take down like the inclusive languages and practices, running for school board seats in Royal Oak, and that they're well organized. So I think what this group needs to do, like, is really kind of think about how to vote against that, how to start making sure that your school board members are supported and organized to vote and keep this is the best configuration of a school board I've seen Royal Oak. And I think that it's as good as it's gonna get right now. But it could be, just completely scrambled, and that's a majority.
It is happening in districts very close to us. We thought the last election, and it's scary. And good. But it is actually happening in other districts that are very close to us, where there's school board members that, I mean, they're not advocates of public education. So it is very concerning. And those forces that are, you know, have momentum, I would not be surprised the next election if they, you know, try for more seats as well. So it is very disturbing.
Yeah, I'm an administrator on, I don't know how, I don't remember Royal Oak, but somehow I just keep, so I'm an administrator. Some of you, those of you who are on Facebook might have heard of Unheard Voices Royal Oak. And you would be, but should not be shocked at the number of posts that we decline that are, you know, and apparently they have their alternate like Facebook group now, so who knows? But yeah, the organization is happening. Yes.
Well, I have a cousin that lives in Tennessee, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Wit and Wisdom program there, which is extremely multicultural, and actually they brought it into Franklin, Tennessee, which is a more high-end neighborhood, and it's been very successful. And then they brought it in to rural areas that have a lot of trouble with lower scores. The children's scores went way up because a lot of their heritage was not being taught, and now all of a sudden it was. Their confidence went up, their grades went up, and now they're having trouble keeping it in the state. So my question to you is, because my cousin is a teacher there, well, she's doing grants now, she's semi-retired, but I read an article about a teacher that changed in her classroom the term plantation to slave farm, which is wonderful. I was so impressed when I read that. In her district, they were trying to get her out. is that possible for a teacher that might be, in some cases, to some people, crossing the line when she's telling what it really should be called? Can a teacher be silenced, like, for that?
So I would say absolutely, teachers are silenced, right? I think that that's like one of the things in working with ROMPA and having my own background as a teacher and my mom's background and you know, being part of teachers unions, it is hard for teachers to kind of speak up about what's going
Well,
on.
that's
Even
what
with tenure, there's like vulnerability and what have you. And so again, this is why it's so important to us that the curriculum be driven by the district. And so that the buck stops with the superintendent. If the district says, this is what we're doing, right? Then the individual teacher cannot be fired for doing what the district is doing. I mean, there can be attempts to do that, but I'm saying that there has to be rigorous and robust and equivocal support for teachers to implement a curriculum that is culturally competent and accurate. So, and what you said, like, this is also what the research shows, is that when students are exposed to, the research studies were specifically on ethnic studies curriculum, but when students are exposed to like an ethnic studies curriculum, all student achievement goes up, not just the students of color, but also the white students. Like, this is like, it is absolutely like backed by research and data that the kind of curriculum that we're calling for increases student achievement. But to your question about and I saw a couple people nodding, and I'm guessing that they are teachers or somehow in the school. Yeah, teachers are vulnerable. And again, this is why we're like, it's the district that needs to be robust in this kind of support. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes. And then I see you on.
Are there districts in the state that have done, or do a decent job on diversity?
I think it depends on how you define decent in your perspective, and also it's so dependent on the school population. You know, I think that Farmington Hills seem to be doing really well, but then it seems to be that they're not. So it's hard to gauge when you're not in the district on the ground. And I think that that's another thing that as ROMPA, we're trying to figure out, like, how to connect more with other parent groups to kind of like see beyond the headlines, beyond the news, and beyond, you know, Facebook group chats. Like, okay, how are parents really experiencing this district? How are students of color? So I can't give you, I'm sorry that I don't have an answer to that. Yes.
Yeah, how do we understand the positive evolution of curriculum? You know, it just, to me, it seems extremely immense, right? We've got every grade level, we've got every subject matter, you know, and you talked about it being, you know, in terms of, you know, being part of the organization, you know, how difficult it is to evolve, to change. And we're talking about it at a district level, but we're also talking at a state level. So, yeah, I mean, it would seem like there would be some need for some sort of assessment, some sort of review, and, you know, and this would involve, you know, many different folks participating to ensure that, you know, proper perspective is put forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a real challenge because, so the district did conduct an internal audit of its curriculum. ROMPA, and I think that most experts on this work would recommend an external audit, you know, like the IRS said, like, hey, your taxes need to be audited. Can you audit them and let us know how that worked out? So, but that takes money and that takes time. And so, you know, I think part of the issue is that, yeah, some of these things take time. And in the meanwhile, our children are experiencing the curriculum on a day-to-day basis. So again, you know, for example, when the worksheet came home and my child was like, I mean, because she's my kid, she was just like, it just, makes it, she was the one that brought it to my attention. She was like, look at this mom and blah, blah, blah. And then she told me what the teacher said, and I was like, well, I'm gonna talk to the teacher. And then her dad was like, well, I don't want you to talk to her because I don't want her to get singled out, right? And so it's just like, so we're managing all of these things. The teacher, wonderful, super receptive, because she recognizes it's not about the teacher. I'm not like the teacher did something wrong. So to answer your question is like, yes, it all has to happen kind of at once. And I think that, the flip side from what I've learned in my administrative role is things are really slow, but institutions can do things really quickly when they want to. Like that's like when there is a will, they will skip all the protocols and be like, okay, here all of a sudden is money that we said we didn't have for all these other things, but we have it for this thing because we want it, right? So I think that it's really trying to make this such a priority to the superintendent, and make her feel that this is such a priority to the, the Royal Oak Schools community, that it's just not an option to like keep waiting or keep putting it off, and at each level. And I think that that's, again, the capacity is hard. And so I think, this is where organizing comes into play. So it's like, thinking through, okay, what do we do now that can change right now? And then what's like the larger, so again, looking towards the next year's school board election. I mean, what I would encourage folks to do is really organize around like the local school board election, and then the state, like maybe have a town hall with the folks who are running for, state legislators, specifically around education policy, right? And part of the reason that we are going to host a panel with folks from the state school board is that, like, we don't fully understand what is the relationship between the state school board, the legislature, and educational policy. We don't, it's like hard to figure out, like, does the state school board advise the legislator and then they implement policy, or do they, like, so that's part of why we want to like have some of these forums to educate us so that we can think even more strategically about how to organize. So yes, I don't know how many people watch TV or have watched Parks and Rec. I mean, yes. Okay. How many people watch Parks and Recreation? Okay. So Parks and Recreation, it was a comedy about like I forget her name, but the main character like works, she's like in charge of Parks and Recreation for like a small town community. In the first episode, there's a nurse whose boyfriend like injured himself because he fell into like this pit. And so she like reaches out to Parks and Recreation, and they're like, okay, we're going to fix this pit. And the nurse is like, okay, I'm in for it for however long it takes. It's going to take like 2 weeks, right? And that's like the joke, because it's like nothing happens in 2 weeks. But my co-organizer, Danielle Atkinson, who I think many of you know, who is like an organizer, like, and she's also now on the Wayne State Board of Governors. She was like, Lisa is the nurse, because when we started ROMPA, I was like, okay, we gotta fix things because my kid is in kindergarten and I think it'll be done by like the end of the year. And it's just not, but it's like constantly figuring out what can immediately be done, and then what's the push for the larger change, knowing that our children are experiencing the curriculum right now. Marianne.
I actually just looked up today, so we encourage citizens to join the district committees that we have, and we do have a curriculum committee, and the lead of that committee is amazing. I have to say that, so I feel very strongly about that. Our next meeting is October 17th, but anybody can join any of the committees, so I would definitely encourage anybody who would be interested in this work to, it's on the district website, you fill out an application just so they know that they include you on the notification. Our next meeting is October 17th, and they're always at the board office, but I would definitely encourage you to join that committee. I think it's been a good committee. We have a couple educators on it now, so yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? I know I've taken up a lot of time. Thank you so much for your.
How do you want people to stay in touch with you, know what ROMPA is doing, are there meetings people can do?
Okay, so, yeah, thank you. So our meetings kind of fell apart the last,
Like
the
everything.
pandemic dragging out, the last couple of years, we kind of met, occasionally, and so we're kind of in a community rebuilding stage, but we do have a Facebook page. We, if you're not on Facebook, I think on the back of one of those sheets says like what's next. I think it's a large sheet. It has the contact information, so if you'd like to just get on our email list. We don't send out a lot of emails, so you wouldn't be bombarded with emails. Just send an email to royaloakmpa@gmail.com, and then I'll just add you to our general email list to let you know of events, especially like once we get this panel organized, so that you can show up there, and also opportunities to like collaborate on work. So that's that. Thank you.
Anybody who knows me knows that this is not a conversation I'm gonna cut off quickly, so I appreciate it. But we're so thankful to Lisa and the work that ROMPA does, and I think just like if I can editorialize for 1 second as both a classroom teacher and now a school board member, like we said, it is scary. It's our personal endeavor to always make sure that the decisions that we're making on the school board are not just more things for teachers to do, because I know that that's not a solution. It's definitely not a long-term solution, right? Michelle and I both know what that feels like as classroom teachers, but this idea that we need this cultural shift for it to be, right, that culturally inclusive curriculum needs to be just something that we do. It's not an extra, right? Same with all this talk right now about SEL education, right? Social emotional learning, right? That those are just something that we do. It's not like we'll get through our classes, and if we have time, it would be nice to also be culturally inclusive, right? Those are just the kinds of decisions that we need to make about our values as a community. So we're trying. We appreciate and support the work that ROMPA is doing and keeping us moving forward with that. So thanks so much. I noticed in my editing of the document, it looks like we're all that Judge Andy is inviting us to like be his chauffeur, right? This is not Operation Drive Judge Andy. It's Judge Andrew Kowalkowski here to talk to us about a program that he is now taking over the 44th Court called Operation Drive. And so we're thrilled to have him and learn a little bit more about the program. And I think he's got a couple asks for us. So, yeah, good.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have been like a colon or a comma. Teachers in the room that can help me. Sorry. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm not taking this program over. I'm just fortunate enough to be included as part of this program that Judge Meineke has set up. I think I'm going to give you a little bit of history of the program, explain kind of what we do, and then there'll be an ask at the end. With our district court, we serve Royal Oak and Berkeley. I'm a citizen of Royal Oak, and the more I've learned about this program that Judge Meineke instituted, kind of started back in 2013, but really took its current form in 2016 and on. I'm really proud to be a citizen of the city that's being served by this type of program, and now as a judge, even more proud to be a part of it. Basically, what it is a problem-solving court. That's the kind of term of art. It's serving people who are charged with driving while license suspended crimes, and instead of just being put on probation and encouraging them to, try their best to clear up the license with fines and terms of probation. We have prosecutors that are cooperative with the goals of the program. They get a reduced charge to something that won't go on their driving record and won't immediately affect and restart a cycle of license suspension. And we put them on a delayed sentence program where they're not on a probation, there aren't any terms that they need to comply with, but they do come in for review hearings with either myself now or Judge Meineke, usually on an every other month basis. They have access to 2 and sometimes 3 super knowledgeable, super talented, super committed assigned defense attorneys
That's John Ingock, Elizabeth Chappelli, and Melissa Koskoff. They're really knowledgeable about driving issues. They take and donate so much more of their time than could possibly be expected or required. And they help these individuals decipher sometimes a driving record that's upwards of 20 pages long, and figure out which courts are holding them back from being able to go into the Secretary of State and get licensed. And they kind of fall into three different categories. There's the individual who was licensed at one point, but is now suspended because of civil infractions. Maybe they have too many points on their license. Maybe they were not in a position to take care of a driving issue, and so they've ignored a ticket that's now gone into suspension status. And sometimes that stacks up to maybe 4 or 5 different courts, or 4 or 5 different incidents in Detroit, and 4 or 5 incidents in Southfield. And when you look at the driving record there, to be able to navigate that without some special knowledge, in my opinion, it would be nearly impossible. So that's the need that we're trying to address at the district court here in Royal Oak. There's the other category of people who maybe have some more severe driving issues, reckless driving, operating while intoxicated, things like that, and they get into a revoked status. And with those individuals, it's not as simple as just going into the Secretary of State office and clearing out your tickets at a district court, paying fines and things like that, and then just walking in and getting your license. You actually have to go through a hearing with one of the hearing officers at the Secretary of State. Actually, my former job before I got this position. And in those circumstances, our goal is to get them into a position where they're actually making the application. So that's a little bit more of a daunting process to actually expect someone to be able to get licensed. But our goal is to try to get them to the point where they're making that application and making an attempt to get their license and get out of that cycle of driving while license suspended before they're done with us. The third category of person is the one that I'm here to ask for your help on. Those are the individuals who have never had a license, but have gotten to the point in their life where our public transportation system is not great in the Metro Detroit area, or really anywhere in the state of Michigan. People still need to work and support families, and if they've never had a license, often they do start driving and pick up tickets and things like that, and they run into this position like so many others where they just don't have a path to get a license. So in those circumstances, again, our goal is to help them navigate the system, get things cleared up to the point where there's no pending tickets anywhere, and they just need to get into the Secretary of State and ask for the license back. But there's this law out there that we found. It's called MCL 257303G. 303G, and it is this evil little thing in the Michigan motor vehicle code, where if you've never had your license, you've had 2 moving violations, you can't get within the last 3 years, you can't get your license. So somebody who's had 2 drunk drivings, for instance, within 7 years has to wait 1 year, and then they can go in and ask to be relicensed on a restricted basis or get their full. Somebody who's never had a license can have 2 moving violations, which can be as simple as not having insurance, or rolling through a stop sign, or a little fender bender, failing to use due care of caution, anything like that. For the next 3 years, they can't go in and get their license. And so if you have the opportunity to check in on the docket, it's every Thursday afternoon. We rotate back and forth. One Thursday it's Judge Meineke, next Thursday it's me. And you can see the work that these people have done with the help of the Sign Council, and to have a group of people behind them, supporting them, believing in them, trying to push them to the point where they can get this license. They get through all of this, those 20 pages of driving record, and they cleared up all these issues at the other district courts in Detroit, Southfield, or wherever the case may be. And they're just now have to wait out this 3-year period. And to us, I don't understand the compelling state interest in this little wrinkle in the law. This is an individual who has done everything that we've asked them to do. They have served out the mandatory suspension periods associated with any of these actual crimes, and they're just left to wait these 3 years, or maybe a year and a half, whatever the case could be on the timeline of their driving record, until they're clear of this 303G wrinkle. And we've gotten the attention of some people in Lansing to try and correct this, and it really just needs to be an eraser taken to this 303G wrinkle in the law. Our ask for everyone here is to email state reps, email senators. We need sponsors. We need a lot of groups interested in trying to push things to get rid of this thing that is hindering. We have 500 participants in the program, give or take, on a week-to-week basis. We don't see them every single week. That would be possible, but there's about 500 people in the Operation Drive. Our estimate, anecdotally, I think 25% of people fall into this 303G category. That's for 2 cities in the state of Michigan, right? And you can just imagine how many people this is affecting across the state. It's crazy. And we've actually had one individual who went into Secretary of State and kind of asked, what can we do? What is the possible fix here? And the advice from someone at the branch office was to establish residency in Ohio and get an Ohio license because they don't have 303. So it doesn't make any sense why someone at the point of taking care of all of these issues that they need to is now penalized at their moment of triumph. Get clear of this. Do you have any questions about the program?
Why did they make it 3 years? I mean, that seems like an awful long time for anybody to be without a license. If you've already paid the debts of society.
Yeah, I don't have the answer for you. We've looked into legislative history and just haven't really found why it is that way. And if you compare it, like I said, to the more serious criminal acts, it's triple in a lot of instances what someone would need to wait for something where, they've been a real danger out on the road for a period of time. So it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't.
Okay, and also, are you planning to have a petition drive to put it on the ballot at any point in time? So that we can, as people in the state of Michigan, vote for it, not just here and in the other cities we serve, but all the cities affected?
Our initial, I'll say like right now, we have the attention of people in Lansing that we think can help us. So we're gonna kind of let this process play out for a little bit. And as a new judge, I'm not exactly sure how much of that type of politics I can get in on. So I'm not sure is the main answer, but I do think we're at this moment right now where, a couple weeks ago, we had the Supreme Court Chief Justice was in and watched and kind of participated in one of Operation Drive sessions. Hunt was there and Brandon Colo, I don't see this morning, but there he is. He joined us as well. And I know Senator McMorrow is kind of aware of this process. We talked to Rep. Mike Shannon, who's the chair of the Transportation Committee in Lansing. I think the attention is drawn there, and we haven't had any pushback on our questions. No one said, well, we need 303G for XYZ reason. So our hope is that we just need to kind of align the right forces, and then we can have 25% of our 500 participants move on with their life with a full and valid license.
Thank you.
For the people who don't get their license to begin with, why does that happen? What are the barriers?
Yeah, so that's another kind of just anecdotal thing we can talk about in watching what our participants kind of go through. Secretary of State, I think for a lot of good reasons, changed the drivers training programs. I can't say how long ago, but it's been some time. I know it used to be the case where everyone could go get their driving education in school. And that's not the case anymore. Now you have to go to private companies, right? And you have to go through a pretty long gradual program of parental oversight and keeping track of driving hours and things like that. That takes family support, that takes money, that takes access to vehicles. And from what we've seen, when that doesn't happen, you can skip that process, but that takes you getting to the age of 18. And by that point, a lot of people are already in the cycle of driving while it's suspended. And so that's another aspect, and maybe a fight that needs to happen after we take care of 303G, is that we're missing that funding aspect for people that don't have the support and access to funds and vehicles to try to get valid license at the earliest moments when they can.
ever run across somebody who would just say, I don't want this person on the road, I mean, never, anything, so I mean, it's, or he's diminished. And, you know,
Yeah.
I can tell that, I don't think he's as, you know.
Yeah.
Well off as when he just that's originally got.
It's funny.
But I'll tell you, it was at the Secretary of State one time.
Yeah.
Who was, this was about 20 years ago, there was an older lady in front of me who was taking the test. She missed 5 questions, and the lady took her through each one, telling her the answer. And then gave her her license. When I walked out of there, I said, I want to get this lady's license plate so I can get off the road. I mean, she does not know the rule. I mean, she could, she didn't know concept. She's reading. So if you run across those people.
Sure, and you know, the law, there are, I mean, that's an anecdotal story of the way it's not supposed to go, but there is, you know, the law addresses those concerns, right? Like I said, drunk driving within 7, you're revoked, you have to go through a whole other process to get your license. If you do that a 3rd time within 10 years, most of the time you're losing after 5 years. So there's severe penalties for bad drivers, right? Dangerous driving. Those penalties are out there. And you know, like I said, we're not trying to circumvent and get around those kinds of things, and put bad drivers back out on the road. We're targeting the person who has motivation and whose license is otherwise is there. It's a possibility. It's just because of barriers, because of lack of resources, because of a 20-page driving record that takes experts to decipher. They haven't been able to do so.
I mean, sometimes these things 20 and say, I'm not going to get about this guy back out on the road because he's just never followed the laws. I mean, he's not a drunk, he just likes to race, he has send some others.
The statute's already addressed that though, because each, you know, even moving violations, those all have points associated with them, right? Eventually you get to 12 within a 24-month period. Secretary of State calls you in automatically and says, I don't think you need to be on the road anymore because of points. So all that stuff's already built into the statute. We just are targeting this one little spot that we feel like isn't fair and doesn't make sense. And we haven't heard a valid argument for it yet, because like I said, all of those other issues you're bringing up are already addressed. This is some actual weird waiting period. Well, we see them, but it's after they've done their statutory timeout period, right? So they've served that, or we'll wait with them while they serve it. You know, we're not getting around it. We'll wait and we'll delay the case, and we'll see them every couple of months and say, okay, you got another 6 months to go before you're clear of your mandated suspension period. And then when you see it, hopefully you can have a celebration because you'll have your full and valid license. It's not we're not trying to get around anything. It's just, I guess, motivating, supporting, believing in, and trying to just get someone to the point where they're carrying out what they need to do.
Well, what if they're with the eager, I mean, it's just that the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
It's just that the Secretary of State.
A lot.
Supervising.
There are those people that are removed from the program and are just sentenced normally. But our goal is to get someone their valid license, and at the end of that, we reduce the fines and costs that they pay the district court in Royal Oak drastically.
Rachel, one more question. Yeah, just to be clear, these are not Royal Oak residents per se, they're just people who have violations in the Royal Oak area. They're drive-throughs, a lot of them are drive-throughs. And I think this is an amazing thing to do throughout the region, because you're helping people.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole region. Are there other court systems in the area who are joining in on this?
So first of all, I agree with you. We are 100% a regional program, because I-75, 696, Woodward, that we're getting people from all over the area coming through here. We also have Royal Oak and Berkeley residents that are.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a regional program. And we have caught the attention of other district courts. We had the Troy District Court judge was in there watching, and they're going to try and replicate it in that district court. And we've Judge Meineke done presentations at some of our district court judges conferences to try and show the model, and it can absolutely be replicated. It does take some specialized knowledge on driving records and some very committed defense attorneys who are willing to really be part of it.
Great.
Yeah, well, I'm on a very fixed income, and if my sister lives in Detroit, and her insurance, her car insurance is like almost double and a half of mine. So if you have a person in a district that's a repeat offender and didn't get a license, because if you get your insurance, you have to have a license, so you can't pay for insurance, but you still have to get to your job because economically you need to survive. How can we help people, even if they repeat, not have to pay? I think this is the bottom line. If you say to someone you can't drive, that means they can't feed their children or have a home. I would be down right now if I had to pay that price. Right now, I could not pay if I had to pay what my sister has to pay in Detroit. I would have to forego a really huge part of my life because of that insurance. So that's why you might have repeat offenders.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a vicious cycle, right? And that's the cycle that we're trying to put a stop to.
And they could be very honest people too.
Absolutely.
They could have a brake light
Right,
that's not working,
right,
that could ruin their day of getting food for their children.
right. And that's why we feel like this approach of a supervision period rather than on probation where fines and costs are being
Please, I
adding up.
thank you for that, and I think we need to go even further.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. All sorts of great information. We've got some more updates coming to us from the party. We are very excited to welcome back, I don't know, Andrew Darian. He spoke to us as a club in many different capacities. He was the chair of the OCDP a couple of years ago. He's active in Project 83. I'm sure he'll run through his own resume himself. But as of this week, he is now the new chair of the 11th Congressional Committee. And so we wanted to invite him in just to make sure that people knew who he was and knew ways to now interact with our 11th Congressional Committee. I know some of the internal organization of the party sometimes gets confusing, right? And so, yeah, William laughed. Right, and so we have the Michigan Democratic Party, the MDP, that is in charge of statewide politics. And then we also have all of these different opportunities to interact with the party. Us as a local club, we're part of that function. We also have county level parties, and then we have congressional district parties. And we're fortunate, I think, in Oakland County that the majority of the largest chunk of the 11th Congressional Committee is in Oakland County and represents Oakland County. So we have some great opportunities for collaboration, right, between the OCDP, the 11th, and then our local clubs like this. So Vaughn, come on up. We'll celebrate your win a little bit, and then just tell us how we can be involved.
Hi, everybody. Actually, if you are not super passionate about it, I will skip a little bit of resume stuff. It's basically, you've heard about all from Lauren. But yeah, I am the newly elected chair of the 11th Congressional District. Like Lauren was saying, there are lots of different organizations inside of Michigan that comprise or compose the Democratic Party. The analogy that I usually like to use is kind of that the Democratic Party is really not like a vertical top down, here to here to here to here. It's really more of like a lumpy snake, that there's a bunch of loosely connected organizations that all kind of work with each other, but there's really no like vertical step-by-step hierarchy. But I wanted to kind of like take an opportunity to actually thank the two previous speakers talking about issues that are incredibly important. And if you're talking about ways that you want to get involved, those are ways that you can get involved. Always start local, always start in your community. That's the best thing that you can do, the most impactful thing. One of the things that I talked about Wednesday during the 11th district meeting was a little story from the weekend. My in-laws were over for Labor Day. And my in-laws are a little bit more on the other side of the spectrum, we'll call it. And there was a conversation that came up talking about some of the things that have happened recently in the state. And one of my in-laws said to my wife, I don't really like Whitmer, and I don't agree with anything she does, and I really can't stand her face. But I love that they passed a law so that school kids can get fed. right? And the reason that I grab off that story, the reason I've told it twice now, is because for us that are in the room, right, we have a lot of different opinions on where we want to go philosophically, what the best programs are, what's the best possible version of these sort of things, right? And sometimes the thing that we can forget, or the thing that we can look over, is that the thing that will change people's minds is when we get out there, we have the opportunity to put really good policies in place that make a difference in people's lives, and then we do it. And I still believe, even now in this divided age, that when we have the opportunity, when we follow, when we do things like that, with the program that you're talking about, Operation Drive, if you go and somebody that's a Republican is one of the people that's caught in that cycle where they're just over and over getting tickets, they can't get their license back, they get more tickets, can't get their license back. And they're a Republican, and then you help them out. They're not gonna sit there and turn down help. They're gonna say, this is a program to help me out. Man, maybe I don't agree with the people that put this in place, and I don't think it's the best program in the world, but man, it really helped me out when I needed it. And over time, I really do believe that that's the sort of stuff that will make a difference. And, you know, kind of expanding on that a little bit, talking about how there's that really weird quirk in the MCL, about 3 years for people that have never had a license, which doesn't make sense. It's crazy. We have a majority in the state house, state senate right now. They've been working incredibly hard. But there's a 30-year backlog of stuff that needed to be addressed, and they're working through that. So I totally agree that we either talking to state reps and state senators, they want to help, but they have a legislative calendar, and they're doing as much as they can. So this is my leaping off point. One of the best things that we can do to sort of like try and make sure that we can address those things, if not now, soon, is keep in mind that there are districts around us that still have Republicans. That 57 is just east of here a little bit. East, I think, is that way. I don't know. You know what? Just pretend it's that way. Okay? Yeah. There's 57, which is east of us a little bit. There's 56, which is up, or 55 is Rochester Hills. We have that district, and then 54 is north and west of us a little bit. All three of those districts are districts where we have a chance to flip them coming up this next cycle. And talking about Royal Oak specifically, one of my favorite things about Royal Oak, and I say this as a Madison Heights resident, is that every single cycle, and you guys will totally appreciate this, every single cycle, there are a small number of passionate, diehard conservatives in Royal Oak. Every year, they show up with some kind of issue that they are 100% sure this time, this is the one. This is the issue, and we're going to show up, and we're going to get signs out everywhere, and we're going to tell everybody about a thing, and all of these secret Republicans are going to come out and vote for us. And every year they get tripped up on the rake, and the rake smashes up in their face, and they lose 85-15, right? But they still keep coming back around next cycle, right? And one of the most important lessons that we can take from that is that you always have to be organizing. Always keep organizing, keep working, because they, on the right, in the Republican Party, they are constantly organizing. And they've convinced themselves, even in Royal Oak, where every time they run these ballot proposals, they wind up losing 85-15, they tell themselves, next time, we're gonna find the right one, and we're gonna win this district, and then we're gonna take the city commission, and then we're gonna get the mayor, and we're gonna do all these things, and then we're gonna throw out Haley Stevens, and we're gonna throw out all these Democratic representatives that are in Royal Oak, and we're gonna win next time, right? They tell themselves that, and the thing is that eventually they're gonna get to be right, because they keep organizing. And if we don't keep working at the same level as they are, eventually they're gonna get to be right. That's how we turn Oakland County from red to blue. Persistent organizing, every single area, top to bottom, right? There are some of the most passionate Democrats I know in Oakland County live in North Oakland. And same thing, every single cycle, they're in areas where they're losing. They have great campaigns. They go out and knock doors. They raise money. They hold fundraisers. They do everything they can. When they go to the ballot box, they lose like 60-40, right? But they don't give up. They show up the next cycle. The day after the election, they start planning. Who's going to run next time? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? And it's because we have people like that that were in areas that used to be Republican areas. that worked hard and organized and brought things together and found ways to win. We have a couple of those areas in the 11th district. Troy is a really good example. Troy, actually, the 11th, actually, no, Troy's all the way to 11. State maps are stupid. No offense to people out there who love the state maps, I'm sorry. But like, some of the state maps are really dumb. Troy just took their city council very recently from majority conservative, majority Republican to majority Democratic. Troy's on the ballot again this year. Troy's city council is on the ballot again this year. Those are still areas that are in flux. So we have to keep in mind, we always have to keep organizing. We always have to be active, talking to each other, bringing new people in. You know, talk to your neighbors. That's one of the best things that I love about Royal Oak is that whenever I canvass out here, people are always receptive. They want to talk to you. They want to listen. Maybe they don't agree with us 100%. Maybe it's only 60 or 70% they agree with us, but they're willing to talk and willing to listen. So I've talked a lot about, I know stuff, but not a lot about me. I believe that in Oakland County, in the 11th district, the way that things are comprised right now, we have a Democratic majority. We're a solidly blue county, a solidly blue district. That means that we have great opportunities. We have people that we can talk to. There are lots of people that support us here in the 11th district here in Oakland County. So we have the opportunity to reach out and keep bringing more people in. There are districts around us. The 10th district is east of, the 10th district over there. I don't live in the 10th, I live in the 11th.
No, east.
Yeah, right. They have a hard time. They're gonna be fighting an uphill battle. I think if you guys are campaign junkies like I am, and you looked at John James's latest campaign filing, he has, I think it's $4 million. A lot of money. And the 10th district is out there fighting that fight right now by themselves. And they need help. They need people that can come out. So when I say that we have tremendous opportunities, there are places inside the district, inside the county, where we have Democratic representatives, we have Democratic majorities. So if you're in one of those spots, if you feel like your community is safe, think about going to an area around us that doesn't have a Democrat and see if you can help out. We have state rep campaigns that will be launching very shortly for next year's state representative elections. We only have a 2-seat majority in Lansing right now in the state house. State Senate's up for another 3 years. State House is up next year. We only have a 2-seat majority. The 3 seats that I listed earlier, right here in Oakland County, I think all 3 of them border on Royal Oak. Those are all districts where we need to flip them if we want to expand our majority. Right now, we have 2 seats. If 2 people have sick days, all of a sudden we can't pass legislation. You know, so we have to keep in mind, always keep organizing, look for opportunities around us, because the other half of that, we have tremendous opportunities. That means we have tremendous obligations. We have the responsibility to take the resources, to take the advantages that we have in Democratic strongholds and work to make sure that we're bringing everybody along with us. Because if inside the 11th district, right? Sorry, just crazy hypothetical. If next year, every state district in the 11th district, every state house district goes Democratic, right? But we lose the rest of the state. Crazy hypothetical, I'm just saying. Should we feel good? Should we be like, oh man, look at the 11th district, look how good we did, right? We were great. I don't know what the rest of you guys did. Or will we sit here and we'll look at Lansing where all of a sudden we'll be outnumbered 45-15 or whatever it is, and we won't be able to pass any legislation at all, right? We have to remember, with tremendous opportunity that we have comes tremendous obligation to make sure that we're doing the work to help Democrats statewide. And that brings me back to the top. When we can do these things, when we can put policies in place statewide that will impact people's lives, I truly believe that over a long period of time, that's how you get through to people that are not necessarily hardcore on the right, but people who are just trying to live their lives. You know, most people don't care about politics. They don't want to, but they will notice when something breaks through that bubble. When we're talking about feeding school kids, they will notice that. They will understand those things in their community, and we have to be part of that whole process and making sure that we're doing the work to make sure we can keep this momentum moving forward, keep that majority in Lansing, keep policies in place, and make sure that we're doing the work to try and help flip the Congress next year, where there are opportunities all around us. that means that we have the obligation to take advantage of those and help out people that don't have the strengths that we do. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what is your strategy to help? I mean, I hear you say all these things about what we can do, but what is the best strategy for us to help you?
Are you talking about for me or for you?
No, for us.
For you, volunteer. Their volunteer hours are priceless, and I know, obviously, I'm not saying anything that sounds super fantastic and like I have a crazy awesome strategy, no. But just showing up makes a difference, and you guys, how many people, show of hands, how many people here have been knocking door to door canvassing? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like ever, right?
Oh.
Not like today, but like, you know. When you're out canvassing, think about this. You're gonna go out for a canvassing shift, 4 hours, 6 hours. How many doors do you get? Give me a number. 200. 200, sure. If it's you, somebody else, how many doors can you hit? 400? I don't care what district you're in, whether what's, congressional, state house, whatever. You start multiplying that, get an extra person or 2 or 3 or 4. All of a sudden, you're really hitting large numbers. And then the more volunteers you have, the more capacity you have, the more work you can do. And it builds on itself, because when you're hitting 200 doors a day, right, it's gonna take a week to do what you can do in one day with 5 people. And if you have 1,000 doors a day, all of a sudden that expands. You're thinking about not just first passes, second passes, going back into neighborhoods and contacting people that you may have missed the first time around, right? So I know it's not sexy, it's not the sort of thing where I'm like, this is something that nobody's ever thought of before, and here's one weird trick to beat John James, right? No. Show up and volunteer. If you have an afternoon and you can go out and talk to the 10th district and help them canvass there, it makes a big difference.
By the way, if anyone wants to know, I've talked to a lot of people in Macomb County. John James is not doing too much. It's not at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to sort of try and drag the Republicans that are in office,
Right.
because we're gonna do that, and we're gonna say like, well, he's not doing anything, and then he's gonna win by 10 points, and we're gonna be like, well, I said he wasn't doing anything. We have to show up and pick up the other side of that argument and get that out to people. I think you're right, but we still have to get out there and make the argument and give it a chance.
We gotta remember that money people in the Michigan Republic have kind of divorced themselves from their Michigan organization. Of people in their Michigan organization. They have said the money people have said they are going to go out and finance the congressional and those districts, because they know that their party, their president,
The state Republican Party.
the state
Yeah.
Republican,
Yes.
they're out there, and the Republicans are going to start going after the congressionals. That's who they're gonna finance.
Sure.
Probably that would have gone to their state thing, they're going to put out in the district.
Right,
So
yeah, we have,
need more.
yep, a lot of work. And one more from this.
Oh, so I'm a precinct delegate in Royal Oak, and I knocked on my doors, and my precinct's really good. I'm over in 14, and so it's like 67, and Republican, and they show up. So last time, after I knocked on my doors, I also did like some of those areas, like in Rochester. But I know Carl Marlingo that ran, and I actually worked in the task force with him, raised money for him on days that, he lost by like, what, 600 people?
It was a really small
So, I
number.
mean, people need to get over there. I mean, I don't want to drop the ball and say, hey, we're good in Royal Oak, but I was taking some weekends off and going over there and whatnot.
I will wrap it up. There's one number that sticks with me like all the time. That if you go back to the 2016 election and you take the total number of votes that Trump won Michigan by, and I don't know, it's 18,000, I think, 18,000 and change. Yeah, it's in that range. I'm not great with numbers, but if you take that and you divide it up by the number of precincts in Michigan, the average number of votes that he won Michigan by was like 3.5 votes per precinct, right? So don't tell me that you can't make an impact going on doors and talking to people. 3.5 votes, 3.5 people per precinct. If we could have talked to 4 people per precinct, and said, and convinced them that they were going the wrong direction, think of what that would have done to the country. Think of what it would have done for all of us. It's easy to convince yourself that voting doesn't matter, but all we have to do is look at our track record. There are people everywhere in the state that win or lose elections by hundreds of votes, if not thousands, small thousands. So I'm gonna leave some business cards here. I brought my MVP business card. I'll leave some at the front table there. I have to run to another event, but yeah, thank you. And
Yeah, that's great stuff, right? But you're absolutely right that, that we were fortunate to have the leadership that we do in Royal Oak, but we can't just continue to pat ourselves on the back. And so once we get through this year's city commission race, we'll, be focusing, right, more county-wide about how we can help and support some of these important races. Speaking of, if you're wanting ways to get involved, right, we have a precinct delegate liaison, who can help guide you with that. So William Asher, come on up, tell us about, some PD opportunities.
Hi, I'm William Asher, the precinct delegate liaison for the organization. And I just have one thing to say, and that is that since the city election's coming up in November, it's time for precinct delegates to get into full gear. Because I guess the club has endorsed the candidates, the 3 commission candidates and the 1 mayoral candidate. So if you would like to canvass in your precinct, and I urge you to do so, contact me and I can give you this list of candidates within your precinct, your neighbors, either strong Democrats if you want to encourage them to show up, or it's been shown that talking to leaning Democrats is a really good idea because they show up. They don't show up as much. And that's the idea is to get them to show up as well. There's a whole bunch of statistics on this subject, but that's it. Just give me a call or email. Yes. I'm sorry.
I have a question. Are you just gonna cut us a list, or are we gonna be using the minivan app? Will we?
Whichever.
Okay.
I can give you a printed list, or I'm not very good at minivan.
Oh, okay.
I think I can generate a minivan if you like. Yeah. That's it.
Excellent. Cool. Thanks, Wayne. I have a question.
Good, important stuff. Yeah, and we do. We have 4 endorsed candidates. We have our incumbent mayor, right, Mike Fournier, our incumbent city commissioner, Monica Hunt, and then 2 new candidates, Becca and Amanda, who I'm sure we'll be hearing from in just a minute. I know that we do have some new faces here, which I'm very excited about. This is always kind of an opportunity where we offer you the mic to introduce yourself and tell you what brings you here today. You don't need to feel obligated to do so, but is there anyone that would like to say hi? Sheila? Win, yeah, great. Good, Sheila, and then fine, we'll have you up. I was gonna give you an elected officials spot, but you can also do that.
Hi, my name is Sheila Savari, and I have moved back to Royal Oak because I was living in hell, which is also known as Texas. I lived most recently the last 11 years in Austin, and I was very politically active because it was very easy to go down to the Capitol building and hold signs and rally and talk to legislators, even though a lot of them, of course, didn't want to hear from you. Showed up at a lot of hearings to state my case, particularly when it comes to reproductive rights. And I'm just really glad to be back in Michigan because Michigan always felt like home. So there.
Did you want to say hello? Sure, yeah, why don't you take with the other officials? Anybody else want to say hi? No? No, okay. All right, candidate reports. Do you want to come up in any particular order? No, okay. Monica Hunt. Yeah. City Commissioner, okay, you just want to come up together? Sure, yeah, and then we'll just talk about it. Absolutely, yeah. We're running together. Here is our official endorsed slate. And we're thrilled to have these women running and representing us. And so, Monica, here you
go. Good morning. I think it's still morning. Thank you. And I want to say I'm holding on to this scarf. Dave Karush gave me the scarf today. It was Pat's scarf. And Mike, the mayor, has asked that we have something of Pat's at the city commission meetings just put on her chair for people to remember that she's still there. So he entrusted me with this scarf, and this will be on her chair throughout the rest of the term. So, and I think we'll hold on to it. So like, I'll have a piece of her with me. But I am running for re-election. I think the last few meetings I've told you why I'm running. Right now, I want to talk to you about, or I'm running again. Today, I want to talk to you about how you can help me, Rebecca, Amanda, and Mike. Well, me and Mike retain our seats, and Rebecca and Amanda join us at the commission table. You asked earlier about TERFs. We are cutting TERFs as a now, Kowalkowski is doing that for us. And typically what we do is we knock on those that vote majority, for the majority of the time, Democratic. Because, you know, you need to get out, reach out to them and let them know that there is an election. This is an off election year. And in off years, people rarely vote. It's important that we get people out to vote this time around because we're labeling the other side as 18 2.0, but they're much more organized this time. They have their signs out earlier. They're having meetings. So we can't take for granted that people are just going to remember these are the same type of candidates as the last time. We need to get out. We need to let people know that the three of us and Mike want to do what's right for the city. We want to move the city forward, whereas they are trying to move the city back. And we know that backwards. And we know that people who are majority progressive. If everyone gets out and vote, it's going to be fine. But we have to get people out to vote. So if you can knock doors for us, we would truly appreciate that. Mike James put out a call, Carl put out a call on Facebook for us to organize. We have people come out on Saturday and Sunday afternoons to knock doors for us. We'll have our slate pieces soon that you can go and talk to neighbors about who we are and what we're doing. And while you're talking to them, remind them that there is an election coming up. Remind them to get out to vote. And if they have questions about how we are, what we plan to do, how we're going to do it, to reach out to us. It's important to also remember that the other side is talking about what they don't want, what they don't like about the city. They don't have a plan for, you know, what happens when they reject the road millage. What's going to happen to the roads then? We have plans moving forward. Knocking doors for us, talking about us, talking about the election, that would be really helpful. Any questions about anything? Yes.
Yes, good morning. I'm a precinct delegate and I have two questions. One is there a central depot for lawn signs for all four of you?
I'm going to offer Kyle's house because he did it the last time. But there will be signs at his house. But we have them now. And in the meantime, you can reach out to any of us. I'm going to be delivering signs later today. But I would say moving forward, if someone says, you know, they want a sign, let us know, and then we can arrange for them to go to Kyle's house to pick them up.
Okay, but he's got all four signs.
He will have all four.
Thank you. And the second question is, will there be a mailing or mailings going out to residents?
Yes, there will be multiple mailings going out to residents. I apologize in advance of all of the mailings that you'll get. But there will be individual pieces introducing each of the candidates about, you know, where we stand, what our backgrounds are, and then there'll be our pieces of what we're interested in doing for the city, how we want to move the city forward. And then most likely an endorsement piece of all of the endorsements that we've got. I'll tell you, we have some pretty significant endorsements that are organizations that are supportive of us. The very first endorsement we got was our police union. They're supportive of what we're doing here in our city. We're supportive of them, of course, but to have the police behind us is one of the most important things that, you know, I can think of. In addition to the Sierra Club, we have a passion for making certain that our environment, that we're environmentally sustainable, and that we're moving our city forward with climate action and all of those great things. So having the Sierra Club behind us is very important.
How how you pay for those mailings?
We pay for those mailings through the donations of great people like you. Thank you all for who've donated so far. Anyone is interested in donating to us, we each have an Act Blue. I believe Rebecca's is over there. There's a little Scantron or a little, not Scantron.
QR.
And then Amanda and I can give you our Act Blues if you're interested. We can also accept checks.
They're also in your club email.
They're in the club email, thank you. And on our websites. And my website, and each one will give theirs, but mine is hunt, the number 4 RO, so hunt4ro.com.
One more question. I was surfing the web and saw that there is a candidate forum on September 19th. Are all the candidates planning to be there on both sides of the ticket?
All 4 of us will be there, 3 of us and Mike Fournier will be there. The mayor's forum is before the commission's forum. I can say we'll all be there. I don't know about the other side, but I suspect that they will be. And thank you for bringing that up, because we do know that our opponents are organizing much better than they did in the past. And we know that when there's a call out on their end, people show up. And I'm certain that there will be, it will be standing room only, and there will be many people from that, from the other side there to ask questions, to try to get the wrong message out. So I ask that if you're available on September 19th from about 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, show up, ask the questions about, what you, questions that you have about the city, ask them about their solutions for some of the things that they're throwing out there. But be there, be supportive. It's always nice to have a friendly face in the crowd when you're in situations such as that. So please mark that on your calendar.
Where is it?
I'm sorry, thank you. It's in the City Commission chambers in City Hall.
And will it be live streamed or?
It is live streamed. It's through the League of Women Voters, and they are streaming it, I believe, on their YouTube page.
Thank you.
There are questions?
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Amanda Herzog. I'm also running for the City Commission, as you heard. And together, I think we can build a more resilient Royal Oak for the future. And I think that touches on safety, public health, our local economy, and our natural resources. And as Monica said, the slate is looking to build on our successes and leadership that Royal Oak has in Southeast Michigan. And there's a slate that's running that wants to threaten that vision. They want to set us back. And so they're out talking to folks about wider streets are safer streets. And we know that that is a false statement. There's research done at Michigan State that says that that's not true. I live at 10 in Maine, and I would love to walk with my 2 young children to the Detroit Zoo, but it's just too dangerous to walk across Woodward. And there's been fatalities on Woodward, and that's just not true, right? They're also putting fear into the community about the master plan process. The master plan is a community-driven planning document. And the last time that the city took a deep dive on it was in 1999. I was 16 years old. Gas was $1.10. I had a Discman. I didn't have an iAnything because there were no iAnythings. And I didn't have a cell phone. No one really had cell phones. So it makes sense for us as a community to ask the questions about land use. Like, does it still make sense how we had planned for it back in the 90s? Does it make sense today? And it only makes sense for us to ask those questions. If it does, great. If it doesn't, let's make it work for our community. And the other thing is they're being disruptive to just be disruptive. So they're going to planning committees and the commission meeting, and they're being disruptive, and the police have to be there. And I've been the chair of the Environmental Advisory Board for the past 6 years. And in that time, we've been very successful at implementing sustainable policies within the city. And I think that there's 2 reasons for that. One, we're a very inclusive board. So anyone on the board can bring something and we all work together to make it happen for the community. The second is is that we have sweat equity. So we do the hard work. We do the research. We do all the things that need to happen so that it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We don't go to planning commissions and city commissions and yell and scream and point fingers and have someone else do the work. We do the work because we are serious people wanting serious solutions. So this is where I'm sorry, I'm so fired up. I drank so much coffee today. So what we want is we want leadership that's not foolish and weak and lazy, right? So we have, of course, we have some ads now. We need volunteers. We need volunteers knocking on doors. We need lift trucks, mowing folks. We need money. That's the hardest thing to ask for. Gives us the most heartburn, but it's the only way that we can really get our name out there, especially me and Becca, who really folks don't really know us. And then we need you to vote, but also bring a friend to vote, because there's only 4 things on the ballot, and we are worried that people aren't going to really go out there and vote. On top of that, next Tuesday, I have a campaign kickoff event at 5th Avenue at 5:30. It's also on the agenda, and we have all of our signs. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for sticking it out a little bit extra time. I appreciate you. So my name is Becca Cheatham. I'm also running for city commission with these wonderful people. And so I guess a couple things that I just wanted to touch on. I wanted to thank folks. I had my campaign launch last week, on Wednesday. And it was great to see some of you at that event, and I have received some donations from a lot of you. So I just want to express my thanks for that. And for your support. Like Amanda, I am the new face on the ballot. I say new, we've both been involved with the city, right? So she was in Environmental Sustainability Committee. I've been on Aging in Place and Parks and Recreation. So we're not new to the city, but we're not as well known as some of the other folks. So we really need to get our name and our message out there. So to that end, I am also asking for help. I also just have a little bit of a frightening story to share. And that is that I got my signs a couple days ago, and I went to deliver some signs to a few of our close friends who I knew were going to not mind if I stuck it in their grass. And I passed by a house, this was on my old neighborhood in Royal Oak, that I know as a progressive Democrat. I know that she had her Andy Levin sign out there last year, and she had a "Don't Rezone Royal Oak" sign in her yard. And that really alarmed me much more than just seeing these "Don't Rezone Royal Oak" signs around the city, because I know that this person, I know her values. And so I was very confused by it. And I'm going to go back to the house and have a conversation, but it just shows that this organization is getting their message out there. Their message is confusing. Their message is based not in truth, and it's ever evolving. And so they're able to get some folks into their fold who I don't think actually ideologically align with them, and I think actually ideologically align with us. So I think it's really important that we don't take the part that Vaughn said earlier of like 85 to 15, but we take the part that Vaughn said earlier that we have to stay active, we have to stay involved, we have to stay engaged to make sure that the leadership of the city really stays in the hands of people who are caring individuals, who want to see the city move forward, who want to listen to all the information and the views of everyone in the city and make the best decisions for the city. I believe that that is the three of us and Mayor Fournier. So I really hope that you will also work with all of us in making sure that our noise is louder. Our well-informed, well-intentioned, caring noise is louder than the misinformation that's out there. So we do need your help. Our lawn signs are there. You're welcome to take them today. You're also welcome to let us know, and we can do a lawn sign drop, or you can pick them up from Kyle's house in the future. But you know, I think once people start seeing our names, that will start register. If they see where those names are, like whose lawns they're on, people go to people's lawns to say, who are they supporting, right? So if you're one of those folks that people go to see, who are they supporting, who should I support? Please have our lawn signs out there. Those mailers are expensive. I do my homework on things, so I did kind of know what I was getting into, and yet still there's some sticker shock in running for city commission. So really do need financial support. As was mentioned, there's a little sign there with a QR code, and you can also certainly write out a check. And, you know, also just in your conversations with neighbors, you know,
feel free to name drop Herzog, Hunt, Forney, as much as you like. And also, even just little bits of other information, like the voting against the road millage and having safer streets don't really make sense together, right? Like, it just conceptually, it doesn't make sense. If roads are not repaired, they're gonna be less safe. Wider roads, does that make sense to you? Like, would you rather cross Woodward or Maine? You'd rather cross Maine because it's thinner, right? So, like, their points are not making sense, and then don't rezone Royal Oak. It's just a confusing message. The master plan is something that we have to do as a city. It's a dated plan. It's a legal requirement that we go through this. We need to do this. So, you can also just be a little bit pushback on that voice as you're out there. So I appreciate your time today. I appreciate your support. I have felt so much support from this club since I started talking here in February or March. So I really thank you very much for that. Okay.
Yeah, I just want you to know that in my neighborhood, a big box condo, 3 stories high, was placed right behind my neighbor's home with 70 trees destroyed carelessly, and now her quality of life is gone. I have represented someone in this room very much. You have to let people know that this is happening. This is not fake news. It's right down the street from me. They no longer have a skyline, privacy. This is really happening, and I'm very upset that you said that, because it's an insult that I'm living there. And so please remember, there are people that are experiencing this every day. And along with the police, I was there when someone who was appointed by the city disrupted a meeting that I felt threatened at. And so there are 2 sides to every story. And again, the people that have represented me, I put my faith in. Please do not make these comments about me, who have tried very hard. I show up. I don't see any of these people at the commission meetings. I'm always there. And I'm always trying to do the right or left thing, because it doesn't matter which one it is. So please do not spread this, that I, who am trying to support my neighborhood, my safety, my diversity. You heard me speak at the beginning. I'm very diverse. I have all kinds of people in my family. They're not considered mainstream. So please tell both sides of the story, because maybe that's why your neighbor's frightened. So thank you.
So as our master plan stands now, and as the zoning laws are at this time, when there's private property, if it's zoned as, private residential or, commercial or whatever it's zoned as, we don't have the commission, I would say, and perhaps even planning cannot really, change and tell people what to do with their property as long as they are within the zoning ordinance and abiding by that zoning ordinance. That's why we say it's important to come out to the master plan charrettes and workshops. And thank you for coming out. Yeah, quite often we hear people, upset about what's going on, but they never come out. So thank you for coming out.
But also, just to let you know, I'm going to ask you now in front of everyone, there's a 27-unit building coming into a neighborhood that shouldn't be there. Please don't let it happen.
Where is that one?
Pardon?
Hey, so that's at the planning department.
Yeah.
The city commission won't see this for months and months.
No, but I'm just asking you, please.
Are you saying the one on 4th Street?
It's in Crane, it's in Cranes. But anyway, I'm just saying, I want your support. I really do. Brandon, I want your support. So please consider that when it comes to you.
And
Can I just address what I meant about being disruptive? I believe in the First Amendment of public comment at the processes in which people move policy forward and speaking your mind.
Right.
But we have, I know folks that are on the planning that are being threatened and the city
Well,
commission.
I
that's
was threatened one day by someone at a meeting. So,
And so, and that's absolutely.
yeah, I don't
appropriate as
agree with that.
well.
That's why I try to
I'm
talk
not-
to civil.
And so when my comments weren't directed to you, it was directed about what is being stirred up. There's fear being stirred up. People volunteer their time and their expertise to do the best that they can for
Yeah.
their city.
Oh, no, that's why,
So,
that's why I.
there's been some bad actors.
Yeah, and there's good actors that need your help. So please just remember that, okay? Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I want to know what you guys would say for single family homes, because like I live on Royal Avenue. On one side of the street, it goes all the way back to Ellen. You could easily split those lots in two. How will you, when I keep I've been to the zoning meetings or master plan meetings, but I see every time you try to talk about single family homes and try to keep lot splits from happening, or say something about it, you go down to, they talk about anything but, let's build up downtown. But no talk about keeping single family homes the way they are instead of splitting them.
So,
How do you protect that lot?
well,
And will you protect that lot, or maybe is that your policy?
oh, no. So one of the things that brought me to Royal Oak was our neighborhoods. I love, our quiet, tree-lined, beautiful neighborhoods. And that's, my plan is to preserve those. It's my initiative to make certain that we maintain the character of our neighborhoods. As it relates to private property, individuals have the ability to do what they want with their own private property. Governments can intrude on an individual's right to, however they want to sell their property or, build on their property, as long as it's within the zoning laws. So as it relates to the single family neighborhoods, my plan is to preserve those single family neighborhoods.
I have not seen anything in the master plan that allows that or protects that. I've seen some issues with the zoning law that said, or proposal they have senior apartments, and I defy you to, if you allow that to happen, how a lot won't be split just using that little trick. Oh, it's for my folks now, but in 3 or 4 years when they pass away, how will that not be split?
Oh, you're talking about like ADUs or like over garages?
Yeah.
Well,
They've already made an attempt to over here.
What, in another city?
No, here in the Royal Oak, there's on the other side of 13 Mile, there's a house where they try to turn the garage into a house.
Okay. And you say try, because that's my understanding that that should not have been anything that was passed or allowed, because our zoning laws don't allow for that at this time. And the proposed master plan, which is just a proposal at this point, it hasn't been anything that's voted on, talks about maintaining the zoning and the character of our neighborhoods as is. And that's something that I support.
I don't see any wording in that. That's,
I think very exciting.
I'm disagreeing.
I want to respect everybody's time, and opinions as we do. This kind of dialogue is important, and it is the purposes, of some of our meetings, but some of these issues are also, unique and personal, right? And so, all of our candidates are available for follow-up. You've got lots of opportunities for people to voice opinions too. And so I do, just with the interest of time, I want to move on.
Okay, there was one question.
Oh, well, I think it's about the same.
Okay, well, then we can have a conversation after. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
I'd like to, all the candidates are available.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. No, I just want to be, like always, our meetings are just too jam-packed. So I appreciate it, but I do want to go ahead and move on. Judge Andy, did you have anything additional that you wanted to say?
No.
Okay, great, good. I did want to introduce Quinn. This is a little bit different for us, because he is a Madison Heights City Commissioner, but a little bit of update from our neighbors. Yeah, Quinn.
Thank you, Laura.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. How you doing today?
Good.
I need you guys to do that again because it's noon and it's football time. So, good afternoon. How are you guys doing? You guys are motivated, and I cannot tell you what, I could not wait to get up here from sitting back next to you like, oh my God, it'll be my turn soon to talk about my city, how awesome we are, and what brings me here today. Because you guys are probably like, who is Quinn? And also, I'm actually on city council. Madison Heights, we gotta be just a little bit different. I'm an appointed city council person running for my next term, and I came here today to ask for your support as our neighbors to the, as Vaughn would say, to the east. But I was hoping to get you guys support because he brought up a lot of great points that I had to strike off my list of things I wanted to talk about because we don't live in silos. We live next to each other. You guys are our sister city, and you guys have a fantastically strong club. And so I came here today asking for your support. I first want to offer my support and say that I strongly support all of the candidates that came up here today, including your mayor. They have been a fantastic resource for me when it comes to discussing ideas. Monica and I actually have known each other for quite some time, and she is a Spartan too, so go Green Monica. So, but
Go White.
Go White. All right. You know, our game time is at 3:30, so I was like, I'm good to 3:30. So,
Not gonna go.
no. Hey, you know what? I love debate. I love discussion, but at some point, wrap it up. But I came here to just, again, ask you guys to help volunteer if you guys have questions about Madison Heights. We've been doing some fantastic work in the city. We've renovated our fire station. We've renovated our library. We've renovated our active adult center, which I encourage you guys to come check out as well. But I think most importantly, we just need to collaborate more. We need to work together. Royal Oak is a gigantic city, and as a sister city, we're here too. We're doing some fantastic things. So if you know of people in Madison Heights, raise your hand if you know of people in Madison Heights. Oh, that's all of you. I encourage you to ask them to spread the word about Quinn Wright, and if you have questions for me about what we've done and how it applies, I can tell you one of the things that I did, speaking about what we talked about earlier today, prior to being on city council, I was the chairman of our Human Relations and Equity Commission. So I'm very familiar with some of that work. I think that a lot of times we focus on the D and DEI. How many of you guys have heard DEI? Raise your hand. All right. A lot of times we focus on the D and DEI and leave out the equity and inclusion. So a lot of times I've experienced people have been very quick to point out, well, I'm a Black friend, or I know somebody who's LGBTQ. That's fantastic. How are you being inclusive? How are you making it equitable? And so those are things that are important to me. I don't want to talk forever because you guys have been here for a while, but I appreciate the opportunity. I would love your support. Please support the fabulous women, the strong, confident women, and Mike as they run, and please support me in Madison Heights. So thank you. Global Township, formerly, but now Madison. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Brandon was gonna say a few words about the village, but he also stepped out and said he would, do you?
Next time, we'll talk about the village next time.
Okay, great.
Vote yes.
Go yes.
We like roads. We like driving on good roads. Let's talk about it.
But yeah, we'll be sending out lots of information. We did get the TV screen working though, so that would be a cool resource for us in the future. It's great. Any other elected officials that I'm looking over? My fellow school board. Any updates from the school?
Well, no,
I'm cheering today. Come on. Mary Van Heinsma, Tim Chikorsky, and Michelle Cook, 3 other of our school board members.
Thank you. Just real quickly, a couple of quick updates, and then guys, thank you for your patience for still being here. Our state of the schools, our superintendent is doing the state of the schools on September 28th at 6:30 at the school board office. We welcome any and all of you to be there. I think that's important to hear what she has to say. We too are working on a strategic plan, long-term strategic plan, which we will have again for discussion at the next board meeting, which is next Thursday at 6:30. We welcome you to attend board meetings as well, as it was mentioned earlier. And we have, we've gone through 2 weeks of the school year. We started before Labor Day, caused a little heartburn for some, but things have been going well. We have a new student resource officer this year. So he will be introduced at our school board meeting next week. We're excited for him to be part of our team as well. And I don't know if anybody else.
Sure, just, I just wanted to tie into something, with Mrs. Damon just was talking about earlier about the curriculum, and just, let people know that, those late start Wednesdays that are in our school calendar, part of the reason they're there is for teachers to collaborate and to work on curriculum. I very strongly believe that, making these adjustments to the curriculum should be going from the classroom up, and that the school board has the responsibility to provide the resources, provide the professional development to help them to do that important work.
You're taking care of it.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
And definitely pay attention to if you hear any rumblings of candidates that are running for school board that are against our current workings, that would, be cognizant of that. Like I said, it's happening in other districts close to us, so it's a concern. So thank you.
Oh, are you?
There are going to be,
Gonna be over.
it won't be till next November.
Next year.
Yeah, next November, but just, always looking forward. We'll have, four seats, right, Marianne? Yep, we'll have 4 seats open.
Right now.
I think they
Not
literally
yet.
just came in. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think they literally just came in, but we'll have some depot spots that are not high front porch, there's cycles. All right, not overlooking any elected officials, there were 2 bits of news. We do have some great calendar items that are coming up. We have Amanda's campaign kickoff coming up at 5th Ave on Tuesday of this week. And then Mike Fournier's campaign kickoff on Wednesday. So if you want to just come drink with us through the whole month of September, you can pretty much do that. So 2 campaign kickoffs and then our bar night on the 21st. Remember, bar night is just kind of a more casual way for us to get together, talk about some of these issues that are concerning to us in a not facilitated way like this. I want to invite up Becca back to the stage as a OU professor now. She wanted to give us an update about an event we might want to pay attention to.
Yeah, thanks for the time. I apologize. I'll be quick with this, but so I'm a professor at Oakland University. I'm a professor of public health there, and at the university there is a Center for Civic Engagement, which is hosting on September 18th. It's like the day before our thing. The September 18th, a discussion with former governors Blanchard and Rick Snyder. And so the theme of this talk or this panel is civility and political discourse. So as a faculty member there, my head kind of exploded to read this news. And so while I am a working mom campaigning, I thought I'll use my additional time to help pull together some sort of counter activity at the university. And so there is a group that's come together. We have, which is made up of students, staff, and faculty at Oakland University. We have a change.org petition that is. Oh, sorry. Closer? Okay, sorry.
No, not closer,
Farther. Oh, sorry. Okay, so there is, this is a student, staff, faculty run initiative. We have a change.com petition. We've already asked the university professor to consider adding voices to the panel that represent those who have been impacted by Rick Snyder's policies, which include emergency management, dismantling democracy in local communities where elected officials are rendered powerless, which includes making the decision to not treat the water in Flint so that it effectively poisons an entire city, which includes the water shutoffs in Detroit. There's lots of people who are impacted by his policies. And so we're not fighting to censor him or to have him removed from the panel, but instead to have the panel expanded to include those voices. The university president said, no, we're not going to do that. And so now we are having a teach-in at around noon. We're still working on some of these details. That teach-in will likely include some university professors, not me, I'm not doing that, but some university professors as well as members of the communities that the policies have impacted. And we're going to do a silent protest during the actual event, which is at 6 o'clock. And so I invite you, I don't know if I can put the link to the petition on the club page, Facebook page.
Just let me know. Just let me
Okay.
put it on.
Okay, I'll send you. So the change.org petition would be great if you could sign that and circulate that. If you want to come to Oakland University to participate in the teach-in, I think that it will also be really interesting. Or if you want to come to silently protest, we're also going to be handing out some just little flyers about some of the policies that he was responsible for. So just want to let you know about that. All right, thank you.
Thanks so much. Bob Jerba, why don't you come up and tell us a little bit about some veterans events activities?
Thank you. Holding this right?
Yep.
I'm on the Veterans Events Committee for the city of Royal Oak. We put on the parade. We had the best parade ever, except for the train last year. But two other events that we put on is the Ruck 22 March, which will be on November 4th. That's a march that benefits suicide prevention for veterans. There's 22 veterans a day that commit suicide across the country. The money that we raise from the Ruck event goes to the VA suicide prevention program. Last year was around $2,000. We also have a food drive. Everybody carries 22 items or 22 pounds of food, and it's donated to a food drive. Last year it was Macomb County because they have a big trailer. We're also looking to diversify some of that to Oakland County. The registration form is not on the site yet, but it will be, and it's on romi.gov/vets, romi.gov/vets, and there's Ruck 22, and you can should be able to register there. So the only other thing is a week after that, on November 11th at 11 o'clock at the War Memorial downtown, we'll have our annual event, which hours. So you're all welcome to attend it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Bob. Any questions about veterans events? No? Lee Masher.
Hi, good afternoon. I just have two brief things. One is that 4 years ago or so, there was a presentation in this room about ranked choice voting, and I got really excited about it. And then it turned out this year there was a petition drive to get ranked choice voting on the ballot here in Royal Oak and also East Lansing and Grand Rapids. And there were enough petition signatures, so it should be on the ballot in November. And the campaign is looking for volunteers to do canvassing. I think it's mainly handing out literature. Second thing about ranked choice voting is that the club has committed to sponsoring or co-sponsoring an informational meeting about it for the whole community. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think the email will tell you when it's going to happen. That's ranked choice voting. Second thing is that I'm collecting signatures for Elizabeth Slotkin. She's running for the Democratic nomination for Senate, for U.S. Senate. And I have petitions over here. And if you would like to sign, I'll be here after the meeting. They're wanting us to tell people that you only can sign one petition for U.S. Senate. So if you only sign this one if you're committed to Elizabeth Slotkin. If you're not committed yet, don't sign yet. That's it.
Great, thanks. Any other announcement for good and welfare of the club? No? No events coming up? No? Anyone want to stay longer? Finish some coffee? Cool. Yeah.
Second.
Thank you.
Second, third,
Seconded by Carl. All in
fourth,
favor?
fifth.
Good. We're adjourned. Go enjoy your September. See you, everybody.
Go green.
Go, all right.
Are you coming up?